Nothing? All right, fine. So let's get going. Let's share the screen. So last time around, we looked at the helicopter trim, right? Okay. So you remember you probably had drawn these diagrams, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's start ahead from here. So now we are going to derive quickly the trim equations for a helicopter. And so all of this was written, right? I mean, okay, so we have to now start from the point of what are we trying to do here. So these two diagrams that you have drawn in the previous class is actually showing the trim state of the helicopter. And trim state means equilibrium state. So therefore, we are trying to show all the forces which are acting on the helicopter body and all the corresponding moments which are acting on the helicopter body. And now we have to write the equations that represent the equilibrium of this helicopter, right? So that is our goal. So we have represented all the rotor forces. We have also represented all the body forces. And now what happens, I mean, because helicopter is acted upon by several forces and moments. So to achieve equilibrium, that is a scenario where there is no acceleration. There is no translational acceleration. There may be, and of course, there is no angular acceleration also. So the helicopter has to be translating at a constant speed, or it may be doing angular motion at a constant speed. That is the requirement to meet the trim. So for that to be achieved, the helicopter may actually have to have a specific orientation, and that orientation is shown by two angles, alpha s and phi s. So let me turn on this. So alpha s and phi s, and alpha s, as we call, is longitudinal shaft tilt, which is same as minus of your pitch angle, because pitch angle is positive nose up as per aerospace convention, but alpha s we define positive nose down. So it is just nothing but it's negative of your pitch attitude of the helicopter. So this is pitch attitude, not the pitch angle of the blade. Be careful. Okay. So this will be theta is pitch attitude. Okay. And other is your lateral shaft tilt angle, so in which my helicopter tilts to the side, which is same as my roll angle. So phi theta psi. So phi is your roll angle, so this will be denoted by phi. So phi is your phi roll. Okay. But we'll be using these two alpha s and phi s. Now, the challenge here is that, I mean, to be able to truly define the trim state for the helicopter, some of the forces are actually expressed in the body axis, some of them are expressed in the gravitational axis, or the gravity axis, or the xe, ye, ze, that is the earth frame, which is my inertial frame. Like the weight of the helicopter is defined in inertial frame, but the thrust, side force, etc., all these forces are actually in the body fixed frame. So therefore, what happens, I mean, we need to develop few transformation matrices so that we can transform from the body fixed coordinates to the earth fixed coordinates, okay, or the inertial coordinates. And this is achieved through two rotations. First rotation is about the, so we are transforming from the body axis to the earth axis, okay. So we'll rotate about the body axis xb by the roll angle phi s. And then from that orientation, we'll roll about the new axis yi by alpha s. So by doing these two rotations, two sequential rotations of of phi s about xb, and then alpha s about yi, we'll be able to change from b, yb, zb, which is the body frame, to the earth fixed frame. Okay. So we transform from XBYBZB to XCYEZE. I hope the text is clear to all of you, right? It is visible?
Yes, sir.
So the transformation matrices are similar to what we have done earlier also. So you can clearly see that T1, the first transformation. So this is for, so we are rotating from XB, YB, ZB. We are rotating about XB. We rotate about XB by pi s, right? So this way we'll, because we are rotating about XB, so my XB will not change. So the new coordinate frame will be XB and some Y1 or YI, I will call intermediate, and ZI. Okay, so this is the intermediate frame. So we are going from XB, YB, ZB to XB, YI, ZI by using this transformation matrix 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, cos phi s, sin phi s, minus sin phi s, and cos phi s. So that's what which is given here. So we do this. So that is our first transformation, going from this to the intermediate coordinate frame. And then we do another rotation about this intermediate coordinate frame to go to the earth frame, earth fixed frame. And for that we have T2. Okay. So here we are transforming by, or sorry, rotating by alpha s about the y-axis, yi. So first we made the helicopter roll, or the axis roll, rather not the helicopter, but the axis. And then we made it pitch, or we make it pitch. So now this is the second coordinate frame, second transformation which is given here. So that is cos of alpha s, 0 minus sine of alpha s, and 0, 1, 0, and sine alpha s, 0, and cos alpha s, right? So that is what we'll get here. Fine. So, all right. So let's move ahead. So I hope we have noted down these things, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll clear this. Let's move ahead. So now the resultant transformation from the body to earth. So net transformation from the body axis to the earth axis is given by product of the two transformations. Are you familiar with this, something like this? So if we do rotations, multiple rotations, and we do transformation successively, we actually end up multiplying the matrices. Okay. So this is a standard thing in rotation. So the resultant transformation, or net transformation from body axis to earth axis, is product of both these T1 and T2, which is here. And if I multiply these two matrices together, I'll actually end up getting this new matrix. It is cosine alpha s 0 minus sine alpha s. Give me one moment, I'm just trying to get this there. So we get this combined matrix, which is cosine alpha s 0 minus sine alpha s, and then sine alpha s into sine phi s into cosine of phi s into cos alpha s into sine of phi s, and cosine phi s sine alpha s minus sine phi s cosine alpha s into cos phi s. So this is my new matrix, which I will call T. And with this, I can now transform anything that is here in the body frame to the earth fixed frame. So you can see that. So this is F earth frame equal to T into things in body frame. Okay. And in body frame, we have drag force, we have side force, and we have thrust. So we can do the same. So Fxe, Fye, Fze is given by T into Hyt. And if I do that multiplication now with this transformation matrix, I will get this cosine alpha s minus sine alpha s T, sine alpha s cosine phi s into, okay, this is, there is some overwriting here. So let me just, this is H, not D. Okay, let's cut this one. And likewise here, sine alpha s sine phi s into H, and it's again H, not D, because there was no D here. I mean, there was a mistake initially. I have written because D is actually the body drag, H is the rotor drag. So that's the mistake here. Because initially I wrote body drag, but rotor drag is actually H. So it will be H everywhere. Okay. This is also H, and this is also H, and this is Y, which is the drag force. Sorry, this is the side force, rotor side force. So we are, by this we are transforming the rotor forces from the body frame to the earth fixed frame. So by the way, this is one way of writing the trim equation. Other option could have been I could have transformed the weight to the body frame and done everything about the body frame. But nevertheless, this is how we do it normally. So sine alpha s H into sine alpha s, sorry, cos alpha s into H into sine alpha s into T. Then sine alpha s into sine phi s into H plus cos phi s into Y plus cos alpha s into sine phi s into T, cos phi s into sine alpha s into H minus sine phi s into Y plus cos alpha s cos phi s T. So that gives me the net force about Xe, sorry, Ye and F of Ze. Yeah, so this is all the three forces now. So all the rotor forces are now been transformed into the earth fixed frame. So therefore now I can use this to.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, if they are transforming from body frame to earth frame, shouldn't it be first T1 and then T2? Like T is equals to T2 multiplied by T1?
So you are saying the order of multiplication.
Yes, sir.
Will it not be what?
So if we are transforming from body frame to earth frame, so the vector should be first multiplied with T1 and then T2. So then T is equals to T2 by T1, right?
So you are saying T should be equal to T2 into T1 and not T1 into T2.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, let me just check it. So we are transforming from the body frame to earth frame, right? So body frame, we are first going to rotate about the alpha, right? And then about the phi. So you are right, first we should multiply by T1 and then multiply with T2. That is correct. Yeah. Okay. Let us just double check it if these multiplications are going to change. Okay. If I change the order, let me do a quick check. So if I multiply T2 by T1, okay, I'm just trying to check whether I have made an order mistake in writing this. So cos alpha s 0 minus sine alpha s. Maybe I can just do it here. Okay. Right. So if I want to multiply cos alpha s 0 minus sine alpha s with 1 0 0 0 0, right? And here I have cos alpha s sine phi s and so on. Okay. So what it happens, cos multiplied with this multiplied with this, and Right, so it will still be cos alpha s only, which is fine. The second term, if I do this multiplies, right. So if I go to the second term here, this multiplies with the second column, and here it is again 0, right? Sorry, 100 cos. Oh yeah, here it is minus, sorry, minus of sine phi s and cos of phi s. So this will multiply here and it will be 0, which is also fine. And third term will be cos multiplied with 0, this multiplied with 0, and minus alpha s. Wait. So this term multiplies now with the last column. So this 0, and so sine alpha s into cos phi s should be here. Okay. Yeah, so it will just be a transpose of this, I think. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. But the product of these two will be simply transpose of this matrix. Yeah. But what you are saying, I mean, first we are rotating by because the pre-multiplication and not a post-multiplication. So I have to pre-multiply first with, we are rotating from the body fixed coordinates, right? I'm going from body fixed coordinates to earth fixed coordinates. So it will take xb, yb, zb. I will transform, rotate about phi s. So I should first multiply with the phi s matrix actually, and then multiply with the second matrix. Yeah. So you can take a, there is a sign difference also here. Let us see. Then if I go to the second term, what happens? 0, 1, 0. Here, 0 multiplied with this, it will be all zeros. Right. So this will become 0, and this will become then. Wait, how is this becoming 0? And this was also coming out to be 0 initially. Oh, this was actually not 0. This was yeah, sine alpha s minus sine alpha s into sine phi s. This is my bad. Minus sine, yeah, sine phi s, it will become plus. Right, so it is just transpose of this actually. Yeah. So I think it's fine. So clear all this. So it should be actually, you're right, it should be T2 into T1. Yeah. And so therefore I should write this with a transpose here. Okay. So what you can do is that you can double check this calculation. Okay. Do it yourself and check that this matrix multiplication is coming exactly as this transpose, and there is no sign mistake from my part here. But anyhow, the last equations which I'll be writing, it is not going to be affected by this calculation because we make use of several small angle assumptions and so on, and therefore we get a simplified answer. But nevertheless, I mean, just double check this calculation and update your equations accordingly. Yeah. Because these equations will be required for you when you do the final, the next assignment, rather not final, but next assignment, which is going to be a rather complicated one and time-taking one, not the current one, the next one, which will require you to solve the whole coupled trim problem. Yeah. Fine. So we put this transpose here. And so after that, I mean, if I multiply with t, it will give me slightly different answer. Yeah. Right. So after all this, I mean, once so this is just I've shown for one step actually. Okay. Afterwards, yeah, right. Actually, so this part actually is somewhat incorrect, I feel. Let me see cosine of x from this. because T will be here. So if I transpose this, see, I don't know how this skipped my attention. Open. From body to earth. Okay, so these are in the body, and we are trying to go to the earth. So first we do the rotation about. What happens if I do the rotation about, say?
Yes, sir. If we first rotate about y and then rotate about xb, like
Right.
the xi, then we'll get such matrix.
Right. I mean, actually, both ways it will not make a big difference, because what happens, I mean, these angles are very small. This alpha s and phi s are so small angle, they are close to infinitesimal angles. So actually what happens, I mean, see, in finite rotations. So finite rotations, the order actually matters when you are making large rotations. So if I change the order of rotation, it is going to change my final orientation, as a matter of fact. But when the angles are small, these rotations, even if I change my order, it will not change anything. Just like, I mean, in vector addition. So a plus b and b vector b plus vector a will give you same thing. But it doesn't happen so in the finite rotations, when the rotations are large. But if the rotations are very small, they are almost like angular velocity. Angular velocities are also again vectors. So maybe that is why, I mean, even though I have made this mistake, I mean, my final equation did not alter much, because after deriving this, I'll actually put the simplifying assumption of making these equations with small angles. Okay, so that becomes much simpler. Okay, right. So anyway, so it's not such a critical issue. Right. The final equations are much simpler. These equations I'll double check. Okay, and what I'll do is that I'll upload the re-derived equations with the correct thing, whatever is the correct form, on the class website. So let us ignore this derivation. I mean, you can double check it yourself, you can derive it yourself, but nevertheless, I'll just check it again, okay, and re-derive and get this. So now what happens, I mean, after we do all this multiplication for this HYT, and similarly for other forces are D and YF, right? So if I try to transform the body forces on the helicopter, so these are the rotor forces. Now the body forces are drag, and there is YF, which is Y fuselage, YF, which mostly comes as the tail rotor force. And we would also have this, yeah, I think there is no vertical force, right? For, yeah, so this is 0. So this, so just like HYT, D, YF, and 0 would have to be also transformed to the earth frame. And after that, we write the resultant equations. So for the time being, take down these resultant equations. Okay. So for the vertical force, so these are actually only needed for the force equations. The moment equations don't require such major change, except, yes, I mean, the weight and other things are there actually, okay, because you have to take the moment for the weight and for the drag to get the entire moment equation. So what happens, I mean, we are now getting 3 force equilibrium equations and 3 moment equilibrium equations. Okay, so take down that. So the vertical force equilibrium, so whatever is there right now, take it down. I mean, I check it that, I mean, what I have done here is correct or there is any mistake, and I'll update that. But nevertheless, let's look at this. Yeah. So W minus T cos alpha S into cos phi S plus Y sin alpha S. So note down this, all these equations. So Y sin phi S minus H sin alpha S cos phi S plus YF into sin phi S plus D into sin theta FP. So there is one angle for this, right? So the drag and all actually, right? So this drag actually is not transformed from the body axis. The drag is along the wind axis, which is with the flight path angle. So that is automatically transformed to the vertical axis with d sine theta fp. Okay, so that is fine. So this d sine theta fp equal to 0. That is for the vertical force. Now for the longitudinal force, which is the horizontal force, we have d cos theta fp. So drag due to the fuselage, drag due to the rotor, which is h cos alpha s minus t sine alpha s equal to 0, because there is no other force in the vertical direction. So what we are looking at is that the entire drag force, that is the drag due to the rotor and drag due to the fuselage, both of them are jointly balanced using the thrust force alone. This equation is also fine. I mean, I don't think there is any problem with this equation. I mean, irrespective of whatever we've done earlier, this is going to be exactly this. Okay. Now, maybe there will be a cosine of phi s also here. So I just double check it. There could be a possibility of cosine of phi s here. Then the lateral force. The lateral force is side force y plus yf cos of theta s plus t cos alpha s into sine of phi s plus h into sine of alpha s into sine of phi s equal to 0. So this is my lateral force equilibrium, and if I look at this equation, what I see, so I have the tail rotor force here. So this is going to sort of create an imbalance, right? So I have a force which is on the other side. So it has to be again balanced by the main rotor thrust. So now alpha s, which is tilting of front direction, should not make much difference. This is going to be close to 1. So this thrust component, now there is a small component tilted to the side, and this side tilt by this small phi s, the roll angle, or as we call it, the lateral shaft tilt angle. This small component of thrust is going to balance all my side force and also a small component of rotor drag force. But then you can imagine drag force is a small force, and it's multiplied with two small angles. So this is a very, very small term, so it's negligible. Primary term is actually the rotor side force, which is YF. And the side force actually, sorry, not rotor side force, this is actually the helicopter side force, which is nothing but the tail rotor force. So this is YF is just your thrust from the tail rotor. So this into cosine of phi s must be balanced by the component of thrust into sine of phi s. So that's your lateral force. Then we have a corresponding pitch moment about hub. So My is the pitch moment due to rotor. Myf is the pitch moment due to the fuselage. And so these moments are now balanced by a combination of the weight and the drag. So weight is multiplied with the corresponding momentum, which is xcg cosine alpha s minus h sine alpha s, and minus d, which is the fuselage drag force, multiplied with xcg sine alpha s plus h cos alpha s, equal to 0. So this is pitch moment equilibrium. So the body moments are balanced by a combination of weight and drag, and roll moment likewise is roll moment mx plus mxf plus yf into h. So h is the height of the tail rotor. So you can see that pitch moment is not so much there. I mean, this is a smaller term, but roll moment will be significant because your tail rotor force is there, which is yf multiplied with h. So this combined with the other rolling moment from the rotor and the rolling moment from the fuselage has to be balanced by the weight only. Okay. So this is weight into h sine phi s minus ycg cos phi s equal to 0. So that's the roll moment equilibrium equation. And finally, torque is given by Q minus tail rotor force YF into LT, which is the LT is the location, the distance between the tail rotor and the main rotor shaft. Right. So that is the torque equilibrium equation. Okay. So all these equations are copied now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, yes. So these are the 6 equilibrium equations which we need to solve. So what happens now, the objective of writing these equations is that we want to find out the scenario under which my helicopter will be under trim. So now weight is known, right? So for a given helicopter which is hovering, I know the weight. I would also know the other geometric parameters like location of the CG, XCG, YCG, and the height of the rotor shaft above CG, and your distance HT will be also known, that is the height of the tail rotor over the CG, and your distance of the tail rotor from the CG. So all those things are going to be known to us. Yeah, this should be HT, I think, the H tail rotor. Is there any other H anywhere? Yeah, pitch moment due to drag. Yeah, this is, I think, fine. Right. So this once these equations are known to us or we have written down, our goal is to find out the corresponding inputs which will allow us to achieve this equilibrium. And what are those inputs? Can anyone remind me? What are the inputs that a pilot has to give to achieve the equilibrium for the helicopter? What are pilot inputs?
Pitch angle.
Sorry?
Pitch angle.
Yes, so rotor pitch angles, yes. So what are the pitch angles? Right, so theta naught, theta 1s, theta 1c, alpha s, phi s, and theta tail rotor, right? So theta tail rotor, if you include, then you have 6 things that we have to give as input. So we have theta naught, theta 1c, theta 1s, phi s, alpha s, and theta t, the tail rotor collective. So we can see now we have 6 inputs and we have 6 equations. These unknowns, or 6 unknowns, we can say 6 unknowns and 6 equations, but these unknowns are not explicitly known here, right? We don't see any theta anywhere. All the theta is actually embedded inside my thrust. It is embedded inside my side force, my drag force, and so on and so forth. So these are all embedded inside. So this is equation actually becomes a nonlinear equation. I cannot solve them just like that, and therefore we will be applying Newton-Raphson, as we will be seeing soon. But right now we don't even know. I mean, how are we going to get all this W, T, Y, and so on and so forth? So we look at that also. But before that, let us simplify these equations down so that we can see it in a clearer form. So I will go back to sharing this whiteboard here. Now on this, let us rewrite the simplified version of the equations. Okay. Yeah, but before that, I mean, another important. So this, apart from the 6 equations, there is one more equation, which is important to us. That equation is actually the inflow equation. So the inflow equation is lambda equals to mu tan alpha plus kappa Ct by 2 square root of mu square plus lambda square. So this is the same equation as what we all looked at in the first homework assignment. So this is now another equation which is required. Why so? Because the thrust which we saw in the earlier trim equations, T, is a function of theta naught, theta 1c, theta 1s, and also lambda. right? So it's also a function of this inflow lambda. So while we are solving the trim equations, we actually need to also solve the inflow equation together, because the thrust has to be consistent with inflow. Okay. So without inflow, the getting thrust is not possible, right? So apart from the 6th equation which we saw earlier, we also have this additional 7th equation, that is the inflow equation. Now we make small angle assumption. Small angle assumption. And now my equilibrium equation reduces to a very simple form. So T becomes equal to W, that is first equation, D plus H, that is the net drag, is equals to T into alpha S. This is equation 1, this is equation 2. The equation 3 is Y plus YF. So the rotor side force with the the tail rotor force or thrust should be equal to minus of T into phi S. So this becomes my equation number 3. And then I have, so these are 3 force equilibrium equations. Then we have moment equation My plus MYF plus W into H times alpha S minus XCG minus H times D equal to 0. And then we have, so that's the 4th equation. This is the pitch equilibrium equation. The roll equilibrium equation will be Mx plus Mxf plus W into H phi S minus YCG plus YF into H equals to 0. Okay. So this are the 5 equilibrium equations. And what happens now, the 6th equation, the torque equation. For the current study, we'll make our lives easier and we'll not really worry about the tail rotor collective as an input. But what we'll say is that the tail rotor thrust itself is our trim input. So what we can do is that we can use the 6th equation to find out the YF. So what happens, my YF is equals to Q by LT. Okay. So this equation is automatically substituted wherever you have YF. So this equation is eliminated and we are left with only 5 equations. Okay. So we have now 5 equations for equilibrium and 5 variables or 5 unknowns. So 5 unknowns will be theta naught, theta 1c, theta 1s, alpha s, and phi s. And 6th unknown will be my inflow lambda. So we'll solve these 6 equations simultaneously together. How do we solve it? That will come to. But before that, we need to understand what are these. What is this T? Is the T from my BEMT or something else? What is my D? What is my H? How do I find this different forces and different moments? Even I mean MX, MY, etc. We have not talked about how are we going to find those. Okay. So let us understand that, and then we'll come back to see how we solve this equation. Or maybe I mean, yeah, I think we'll come back to this. I mean, to see how to solve these equations. So these equations you have copied. It's all clear to you, readable, right?
Yes, sir.
So shall I clear this? Yes, no? If there is no objection, I'm going to clear now. Okay. I'm clearing it now. So now what we need to do is that we need to actually understand how do we obtain these different hub forces and moments and so on. So let me share the screen again. Okay. All right, so can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, so what now we have to do is we have to find out what are these capital Y, what is this capital T and capital H and so on. So these forces that we saw just a moment back, like so capital T, capital H, capital Y. So this is hub thrust force. Okay. Then there is so this is thrust, steady thrust. Yeah. Why steady will become obvious in a moment. Then H is your drag, rotor drag, again steady drag, and Y is your rotor side force. So far, I mean, a blade element theory and all the places, yes, we have looked at the thrust, but we have not talked about drag and we have not talked about side force. We have thrust and we have torque. That's all that we worried about. But now we have thrust, drag force, side force, and all these things. So how do we find these out? And these are actually what we get in the fixed frame, yeah, not in the rotating frame. So all these forces are actually outcome of what your blade is experiencing. Now, earlier when we are looking only at hover, everything was steady. So all my blades were identical and all the blades were generating identical type of force, which was not varying with time. Those forces were constant with time for hover, and I could simply add them together. But when I am in forward flight, my blade which is on the advancing side will see a different kind of effect. The blade which is on the retreating side will see a different kind of effect. And as a consequence, all the blades at a given point of time have different forces and moments. So I cannot simply add them because they have different kind of phase, right? They have different kind of magnitude at given point of time. So what happens? We start by looking at the one particular blade and find out all the forces because of one particular blade, and then phase shift the result for that particular blade to obtain the corresponding force and moment for other blades. So what we do is that we start by looking at the blade forces in the rotating frame, because that's where the forces are. Your blade is spinning, and as a consequence, the forces are in the rotating frame. So draw this diagram. This diagram shows you the rotor disc, and on the disc we have one blade. So this is basically the disc formed by the, so you can call it rotor tip path plane, not the disc rather. Okay. So we say this is rotor TPP, that is tip path plane. Okay. So the plane which is perpendicular to the hub. It's not really tip path plane. Yes, I should not call it tip path plane. It's actually perpendicular to the hub. The tip path plane will have deformed blades also. So it's the rotor hub plane, we'll say. Okay. So hub plane means a plane which is normal to the rotor shaft. Okay. Now in this plane, your blade is spinning, and as a consequence, the blade will actually have different kind of forces and moments. So the aerodynamic forces which are acting and the inertial forces which are acting on the blade, they all have to be transferred back to the rotor hub. Okay. Because what happens as the blade is spinning, these forces and moments are going to change with time, with azimuth. But what we need for trim is actually the average force that the system is experiencing. So let us look at this diagram. So we have blade, and the blade actually has 3 shear forces. and 3 moments. So just focus on the blade part, right? So 3 shear forces would be, one shear force is Sx. So we are looking at the root of the blade. So this is Sx, shear force about the chordwise or lagwise direction. Then we have one vertical shear force, which we can call Sz. That is the vertical or flatwise or flapwise shear. This is the flapwise, because what happens, this Sz is the shear which is actually in the vertical direction. So it is going to make the blade flap. So Sz and Sx. And third shear is actually along the direction of the blade itself. So this we will call radial shear, Sr. So this is the radial shear. This is primarily due to your centripetal acceleration or centrifugal force. So the blade root is experiencing these 3 forces. Sources are different. Sx is your in-plane drag force, primarily due to drag. I mean, also the small component of lift may be there. Sz is primarily because of the lift and a small component, a very, very small, minute component of drag. So you have horizontal shear, chordwise shear, flapwise shear, and radial shear. So 3 shear forces are there, and these are in the rotating frame. These are at the root of the blade, while blade is still moving up and down. Then there are 3 moments also, 3 bending moments. So the corresponding moments, let us see. So first moment is a flapwise moment. So that is here. And it is denoted by the symbol NF. So NF for the mth blade. M means the number of blade, mth blade. Yeah. So this is flapwise or flatwise bending moment. Yeah, this is again, I mean, this is somewhat similar to your aerodynamic flap moment. Okay, in this case. So flapwise bending moment. Then we have Sz, which is the chordwise or lag moment. So this is Sz. So the double vector means it's moment in the plane of the rotor. So it is making the blade move in plane. Okay. So we'll say lag moment or chordwise moment or lag bending moment. Or chordwise moment. So whatever. So you can, it's not chordwise, it's chordwise, right? So these are the 2 moments, and the third is actually a twisting moment. So twisting moment you can see is here, and we call this as NT, the twisting moment. So these 3 forces and 3 moments, these are all the forces and moments in the rotating frame of the blade. Then we have forces which are there in the fixed frame, which we have already seen in the trim equation. So the forces which are there in the fixed frame, they are given, also shown here in the diagram, and which you have also seen on the helicopter. So we have in the helicopter picture. So we have 3 forces in the body. These are the body fixed frame or body fixed forces, or also called the hub forces. So we have thrust T. You have rotor drag force H, because this is the direction of flight. Mu omega r is the speed, airspeed. So thrust is vertical. H is the drag force, and then we go to the side. So side direction, we have this side force Y, rotor side force, and the moments. So one is of course the torque, which is minus of Q, which is equal to mz. Mz is shown vertically upwards. Torque will be negative of that. So mz or minus of Q. Then there is a roll moment, which we denote by mx. Then there is a pitch moment, which we denote by my, which you have seen already in the. So now our objective is to find these body fixed forces and moments. Okay, so the body fixed forces and moments in terms of these guys, okay, because these guys I can write in terms of the rotor thrust, centrifugal force, and this and that and so on. Sorry, centrifugal force. So I can find these guys first, and from that I'll be able to find the hub forces and moments. Okay, so let's move ahead. Right, so the hub forces are thrust, drag, side force, roll moment, pitch moment, yaw moment. Okay, so all this is already known to you. So now question is, how do I find these out? So let me write down the expressions for each of these one by one. So whatever you saw, okay, from there to the rotor forces, right? So these are actually in the rotating frame. These are in the fixed frame, but these are the forces which are there due to the blade. Okay, experience at the rotor root. So what we'll do is that we'll actually try to write down these rotating frame forces and transfer it to the blade fixed frame first, and then we add up the contribution from each blade. So this is for one particular blade, right? This SX, SY, sorry, SR, SZ, XX. These are actually for the one particular blade, and it is in the rotating frame. So we transfer it to the hub, and there we combine the contribution of all the blades to get the total effect of forces and moments at the hub. And then from that, finally, I find out the hub forces in fixed frame. So let me reshare the. Okay. So what we have is we'll write down something else in between. Okay, so earlier we saw the blade. Now let us see the so let us say this is the rotor hub, and our objective is to find out the rotating frame hub loads. Okay, we first said the rotating frame blade loads. From that we want to find the hub loads. So what we have here is SR, and then we have here NT, and then we have SZ. Okay. And about this we have moment, which is NL, and then we have third, which is on this direction, which is SX, and we'll have corresponding moment about this, which will be NF. So the three hub forces and moments are shown here. These are at the point where the blade is attached. So these are at the root of the blade, okay, root of the blade. But what we want is we want to find the corresponding forces and moment at the center of the hub. Okay, we want it right here. So we want corresponding, okay, three forces and three moments. These forces and moments will be now called Fz, Fx, sorry, this is Fy, this is Fy, and this is Fx. And likewise, there will be three moments. One will be Mx, My, and Mz. Yeah. So we have to now find this relationship between these Fx, Fy, Fz, Mx, My, Mz with this root shears. So these S, R, Sz, and Sx are root shear forces. And correspondingly, the moments are the root bending moments. Okay. So this was sorry, M, F, and T, and L are root moments, blade root moments. So our objective is to find the equilibrium between these two. So it's fairly straightforward. One can simply do static equilibrium here, and you would be able to write the hub loads. Can be written like this. So we can simply see Fx equal to simply Sx, and Fy equals to simply Sr, and Fz equals to Sz, and My equals to Nt. Sorry, My is equals to My is what? My, yeah, My equal to Nt. Yes, My equals to Nt, and Mx. So now this distance, yes, this distance from here to here is actually how much? From the center of the hub to the root of the blade, which is the point where the hinge is. What is it?
Y.
No, this is normally E.
Okay, yes, E.
Yeah, so where the hinge is there, right? So the blade root means where the hinge is. So this is distance is E. So now that E will come into picture here. So Mx equal to Nf plus E times Sz, and Mz equals to minus of NL minus of E times Sx. It's simple equilibrium. Okay, just forces are same as before, because the same forces which are there, I mean, will get transferred to the center of the hub directly. So what is happening here is that, I mean, this diagram may be slightly confusing because both the forces, all the forces look in the same direction, but how come there is no minus sign here, right? To ensure equilibrium. The reason is that these forces actually are acting on the blade. So what happens, the blade is being pulled by these forces. So this forces will have a reaction force at the hinge point. So the hinge point will have a corresponding reaction, which will be with the negative sign of the same forces which are shown here. Okay, what you see on the board. So the same forces, these same forces, you will see with a negative sign being applied on the hinge, and that particular thing will go into equilibrium with whatever we are applying at the hub. So this is fine, and you will end up with this relationship for force equilibrium, and moment equilibrium. Moments get transferred just like that. I'm sorry for that. Give me a moment. Let me just check this. Okay, so sorry about that. Right, so this also is, I hope, clear to all of you. It's simply the force, corresponding force, and we are trying to find moment about this point. So force into the moment arm is E, and that's what will give you the corresponding moments. Okay. So, right. So now we have a relationship between my root forces and the hub forces. Now from these rotating frame hub forces, I need to find out the fixed frame hub forces. Okay. So after this, I want to find out fixed frame hub forces. So whatever we are discussing, I hope all of you are able to follow. If you have any query about anything, just
Sir.
Yeah.
MZ should be plus NL minus ESX, right?
FZ should be
MZ.
MZ
Plus NL minus ESX.
plus NL minus ESX. MZ is here, okay, and SX is actually showing on the opposite sense. So X R Z. So just double check. I mean, these formulas are absolutely fine actually, because
No, sir, because NL direction in the previous diagram is opposite to what we have shown here. So the formula is correct. I mean, the rotor diagram that we drew before, there the
Right.
NL direction is opposite to what we drew here. So we just need to change the direction of NL here in this diagram.
in this diagram, right. So NL is right. So NL is about this X, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this, this actually is. I think I have drawn it. The arrow is actually on the wrong side here. I think, yeah. So this implies downwards. Okay. So this arrow you can correct. This should be pointing downwards. So in my notes, it is actually this way, right? Okay. So that is, it's pointing downwards. So these formulas are fine. I mean, maybe there is some error in my direction because it's hard to make out which way it is, right? Turning here. So SZ actually, sorry, NL has been made to point downwards. Yeah. So based on that, yeah. Let's see, there is no mistake. We have redrawn this diagram somewhere. I cannot find it where it is. I think this is fine actually. Yeah. So the equations are fine. Yeah. There may be some minor mistake in the diagram, but equations are okay because that I have checked. I mean, multiple times. Yeah. Fine. So let's move ahead. Okay, so okay, let me go to the. So now we have to find the fixed frame hub loads. Okay. And what happens now? I mean, this Fx, Fy, Fz is for one particular blade. Yeah. So I need to transform it to the for all four blades. So what we do is that we write the fixed frame corresponding loads like capital Fx, because that's what we want. Okay, capital Fx, capital Fy, capital Fz, which of course Fx we write as H, Fy we write as something else, right? Okay, the side force Y, and Fz is actually my thrust. So this is now given as actually a combination. It's a summation of m equal to 1 to number of blades NB. Okay, and here we have f of y for mth blade into cos of psi m plus f of x for mth blade with sine of psi subscript m. Okay, so this ym and xm is all subscript, which says that is for the mth blade. So this is for fx. I'll now change the page to go to the next page. I hope you have taken it down.
No, sir. Just
Just copy it quickly so that I can change the page. With summation m equal to 1 to mb fym cos of psi m plus f of xm sin of psi m. Okay.
yes, sir.
I'm changing the page now. Right? Yeah. So now, similarly, we can write fy as summation of m equals to 1 to number of blades, f of y m sin psi m. What is psi m? I will write in a moment. Minus f of x m into cos of psi m. Fz, the vertical force, will be given as m equal to 1 to nb. So what we are doing is that, I mean, after we found for one blade, we are just trying to add it up for all the different blades. There. So this will be simply f of z m, because there is nothing else here. Okay. And mx equals to, similarly, m equal to 1 to nb. Mx m, subscript m, with the sine of psi m plus m of y, subscript m, into cos of psi m, and my equals to same m equal to 1 to nb. Here we have minus of m x m into cos of psi m plus m of y m into sine of psi m, and finally mz will be similar to fz, summation m equal to 1 to nb into m zm. Okay, so that's the whole thing. So this 6 summations have to be now done for all the blades. So what happens, see this, whatever we saw in the previous thing, okay, this, all these fx, sx, sr and all, these are all functions of azimuth. Okay, these are all going to be functions of your azimuth angle. So they are all changing with time. Therefore, when we have to add them together, we have to take care of where they are located at a given point of time. And therefore, these transformation things are coming. Where we have psi m and so on. So what is the psi m now? Let us see. So psi m is defined as psi of any blade plus, this is psi of actually first blade plus nb minus 1, sorry, nb minus m into 2 pi by nb, or 2 pi by nb will be, or pi by nb, sorry, pi by, actually no, the entire 2 pi, right? So 2 pi by nb, it should be 2 pi by nb into 2 pi by nb. Let me just double check if it is coming fine or not. So y equal to 1, we'll see, should be nb minus 1, sorry, nb not minus m, it should be nb minus 1. Actually, it's completely wrong. Let me rewrite. Sorry, this was all wrong. was not thinking straight. Yeah, this is actually m minus 1. M minus 1, fine, and 2 pi by NB, right? So now you can see if I have a 4-bladed rotor, okay. So NB equal to 4, let's say. So psi 1, of course, if you put m equal to 1, this goes away. But if I want to get psi 2, it will be equal to psi 1 plus 2 minus 1, which is 1 into 2 pi by 4. So this goes to be pi by 2. So what it tells you is that this psi 2, that is, so what happens, this is telling you that, I mean, when the azimuth for blade 1 is at psi 1, the blade 2's azimuth is actually psi 1 plus pi by 2. You understand? So it's just trying to tell you that where all the blades are at a given point of time. For a 4-bladed rotor, one blade is at, say, azimuth 0. The second blade will be at 90 degrees. Third blade will be at 180 degrees. Fourth blade will be at 270 degrees, which you can see, you can easily get from this expression. So that's what it is actually. So you can note down this psi m equal to psi 1 plus m minus 1 into 2 pi by NB. So this allows me to find out all the corresponding signs, which when you are doing this addition, this is what has to be done. And like I mentioned, all of these fxm, fim, all of them are actually function of size. And what happens is that in the trim process, right now in the current assignment, you are learning how to solve the flap equation. So you'll solve the flap equation and you'll see that it will be, initially there will be some transient, which I showed you also in my flap code. Afterwards, there is the transient goes away and you are actually left with a nice, what is called?
Steady.
Periodic solution, right? So that periodic solution for one revolution is selected, and that all these computations has to be done on that same one revolution. So this one last revolution, when it is periodic, you will take the flap equation, sorry, the flap solution, beta naught, beta 1, sorry, beta, beta star, beta double star, etc., and use that to compute your first what we defined Sx, Sr, Sz, and then Nt and Nf and Nl. From that, you will get small fx, small fy, small fz, mx, my, mz, small, which is now be used to get this hub fixed frame forces and moments. But then again, once I do this, what I actually end up getting is still something which will be oscillatory. So what happens, I mean, if you plot this fz in the hub frame for a 4-bladed rotor, how do you expect this to look like, this capital Fz? So capital Fz is actually your thrust in the hub fixed frame as a function of azimuth. Can you guess how it is going to look like? Will it be like a sine, cosine, sine 2 psi, sine 3 psi, sine 4 psi, sine 5 psi, sine 8 psi, whatever? What do you think it will be? No idea? Okay, so it will actually turn out to be 4 per rev. It will have 4 bumps, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. It will be somewhat like this. And this will be the check. When we start writing the code, we'll actually go to this point and see that we are doing it correctly or not. But then when I want to do equilibrium, I mean, why should I look at this oscillatory thing? This oscillatory thing is actually because of vibration. What is happening because of the rotor motions and the nature that each blade is moving in a different manner, it is experiencing a different kind of force at a given point of time. All these things adds up and you end up getting oscillatory forces. But if I look at the say for example, Sz, right? The vertical shear force. The vertical shear force may look something like this. It will not have this 4 per rev kind of thing. That is, it will not have 4 bumps. It may have 1 bump, 2 bump, 3 bump, something. And other bumps will be very, very small. You will mainly see one big bump and maybe a secondary bump. That's all. So it will be somewhat like this. I'm just arbitrarily drawn something. Okay. But from here to here, what happens? I mean, how do I get this? I mean, when I add for 4 blades. So it is because this is for the first blade. The second blade will actually have a bump like this. Third blade will have a bump like this. Fourth blade will have a bump like this. So you can imagine all these bumps will get added up, right? Because of, and a lot of things will get cancelled out also. So at this point, we tell everyone is that when we do this summation, which you see on your screen, these summations actually act like a filter. And only the harmonics which are multiples of the number of blades, they get passed through to the fixed frame. And everything else actually gets filtered out. So everything else is getting filtered out, which means for a 4-bladed rotor, this hub loads will only have 4 per rev, 8 per rev, 12 per rev, etc. It won't have anything else in there. So which is a very, very interesting information. And let us quickly check this out also to confirm that indeed that is the case. Yeah, that is indeed we only get 4 per rev. Fine. So I hope you have noted down whatever we had in the previous page. We are almost at the end of time, but we can quickly do this. Okay. So what we do is that let us assume that this hub Z force for one blade is given like this: A0 plus A1 sine psi plus A2 sine 2 psi plus A3 sine 3 psi plus A4 sine 4 psi. So now what we do based on this information, this is for M, right? So this will be psi M, psi M, psi M, psi M, psi M. Okay. So now if I want to find capital Fz, we saw it will be summation of small fzm. Okay. M going from 1 to 4. Okay. So what happens? I have to simply add this with Fz psi plus Fz psi plus pi by 2 plus Fz psi plus pi plus Fz psi plus 3 pi by 2, right? That's how the 4 blades will be added up. So if I do this, okay, and put this in this expression and do the whole mathematics, and you can check it for yourself, final answer will actually only have these. Everything else will just cancel out. Isn't it quite remarkable? So this is something which we always talk about, that how rotor hub acts like a filter. It only allows passage of frequencies which are multiples of the blade passage frequency, that is number of blades. So number of blades is 4. It will only allow 4 per rev, 8 per rev. So if I had considered higher harmonics here, you would have also got an 8 per rev term and 12 per rev term and so on. But beyond all this, so there is of course a steady term there. So steady part will be always there. So there is a constant part. So which is my constant thrust, right? And that's what gets added up, and that's what I actually want to see. So when I do trim, so if I go back to my previous equation, so not previous equation, but my equilibrium equation. So in my equilibrium equations, I actually want to use these guys, but I will only be using the mean value of these. That is the steady value of these or constant value of these. I will not look at the vibratory part. So these are the things which we will have to put into the trim to get the complete trim going. Okay. So this in a nutshell is what we have regarding the various components. How we start from the rotor root shear forces, go to the hub rotating forces, and then finally hub fixed forces. Now these are hub fixed forces which I will take the mean of. So in the MATLAB, you will simply put a mean command and it will give you the mean value. If that was not there, then I would have done the integral from 0 to 2 pi of this capital Fz, and that would have given me a mean value of Fz. And that is what I would have used in my equilibrium or trim equations. So I'll stop here now. Okay. And we'll complete the trim discussion in the next class. And I'll also give you the formulas for the different small effects and various things, effects, Fy, Fz, etc. So that, I mean, you can understand, I mean, how the entire process is worked, and I'll summarize everything. Also, I am yet to tell you how to solve the non-linear equation using Newton-Raphson, right? So fine, let's stop here. Shall I stop sharing? You have noted down here. Yes.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, after reaching an equilibrium, we will have a what value of thrust for a node?
Sorry, we'll have what?
Thrust value for a node.
Yes. If your entire thrust was written like this, yeah, for one blade.
Total thrust will be.
So this is
For
the
a
mean
node.
value of thrust. This is the mean value of thrust which you will get, which you will use for the trim equation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But this will be all obtained numerically. Okay. So that's what will come out automatically for you. Sorry about that. Okay. So right. So you understood, right? I mean, Parth? Did you get your answer to your question, Parth, or you were asking something else?
No, sir. Yes, sir. I got my answer.
Okay, fine. All right. So fine then. I mean, I'll stop here. And any other query? Anything else? So try to finish the homework assignment quickly. It is not very difficult. I mean, because you are already familiar with many things. So this numerical algorithm should be easy. But if you face any problem, feel free to contact me. I'll help you out. Okay? But don't delay to the last moment. You have had a long break, and I hope all of you are refreshed. Even though most of you are anyway sitting at your homes, so there is not much to be getting refreshed about. So fine. So all right. So see you guys in the next class. And we have lost few classes. So let us see. I mean, maybe after next week, I will take a stock of situation whether we have enough adequate lectures available or not. And based on that, I mean, either we'll take extra classes or I will share you video lectures, recorded video lectures, which you can look over to complete the entire course in time. Okay. That way, I mean, okay, we need not have a live class again for some missed lectures or something. Okay, I'll see. So we'll take a stock of that next week sometime. Okay. Yeah. By the way, next Wednesday we are organizing a drone mela here on campus. A lot of people are supposed to come. How many of you are on campus right now? You can raise your hands. Okay, so 4 or 5 of you are at least there on campus. So you guys can drop by on Wednesday from 11 o'clock. We'll have it in the flight lab. Okay. And we have people, some police force, and a lot of people will be coming from different places. Some school kids will also be coming. So it will be a good chance for you to see whatever is going on in the domain. Okay. So fine. So I'll stop now. Okay. And I'll see you guys in next class.